Aredhel, also known as Arfaniel, was the White Lady of the Noldor and the Princess of Gondolin. She was the daughter of the High King of the Noldor, Fingolfin, and Aner, the sister of Fingin and Turgon, and the younger sister of Argon. She was the wife of Eol, the Dark Elf, and the mother of Maeglin. Aredhel was born in the year of the trees 1362 in Tirion, in Valinor. In her early years she appeared younger than her brothers, but as she matured she became very beautiful, tall and strong. She loved to roam the forests and hunt, often keeping company with the sons of Fëanor, though she never fell in love with any of them. Her skin was extremely pale, and her hair was jet black. She did not dress in elaborate attire, preferring silver and white garments. When the Noldor returned to Middle-earth, Aredhel journeyed with the large host led by Fingolfin, crossing the Helcarax. After arriving in Middle-earth, Aredhel lived with her brother Turgon in Nevrast for a time. When Gondolin was completed, she accompanied her brother to live in the Hidden City. 200 years later, Aredhel grew weary of life in Gondolin and longed once again to ride across the wide lands and wander through the forests. She requested Turgon to allow her to leave. However, Turgon was reluctant to let her go, fearing for his sister's safety and the possible exposure of Gondolin's secret. In the end, Turgon granted Aredhel's request and sent 3 guards to protect her. After leaving Gondolin, Aredhel did not follow Turgon's instructions to go to Fingon's realm of Hithlum. Instead, she turned south to seek out her friends, Celegorm and Curufin. Aredhel and her companions attempted to enter Doriath, but they were unsuccessful because the borders of Doriath did not allow the Noldor to pass. They were forced to travel northward, taking the route through Nan Dungartheb towards Himlad. There, Aredhel became separated from her guards. She continued on alone and reached Himlad, but Celegorm and Curufin were away in Thargelion, at the home of their brother Caranther. Growing tired of waiting, Aredhel decided to travel on her own. One day she crossed the river Selin and entered the forests of Nan Elmoth. Nan Elmoth was the dwelling place of Eol, the Dark Elf. Upon seeing Aredhel's beauty, Eol was filled with a desire to possess her. He cast an enchantment around Aredhel, leading her deeper into the forest, where his home was located, and there he welcomed her. Aredhel married Eol, and they had a son named Maeglin. Though Aredhel was allowed to move about freely, Eol forbade her from seeking out her Noldorin kin. Aredhel told Maeglin many stories about the Noldor and Gondolin, which made her long for her past life. When Maeglin suggested they return to Gondolin, she was overjoyed and proud of her son. They took the opportunity to escape while Eol was away in Nogrod attending the midsummer feast. Eol returned earlier than Aredhel and Maeglin had expected. Aredhel and Maeglin returned to Gondolin and were welcomed. Shortly after, Eol, having tracked the movements of his wife and son, also arrived at Gondolin, where he was captured by the guards. At Aredhel's request, Eol was brought before Turgon. Turgon intended to allow Eol to remain in the city, but Eol refused. He chose to kill both his son and himself, throwing a javelin at Maeglin. Aredhel stepped in front of her son and took the blow. Her wound did not seem serious, but at the time no one knew that the javelin had been poisoned. Turgon decided to hold Eol's trial the next morning. Aredhel asked her niece Idril to plead with Turgon for mercy on Eol, but that night she succumbed to the poison and passed away. Eol was then thrown from the cliffs of Caragdur to his death. In early drafts, both the names Aredhel and Arfaniel were used individually, and each was considered as the final name for Iris. However, when editing the Silmarillion, Christopher Tolkien was uncertain which name was the final choice, so he combined them, using Aredhel Arfaniel. In the history of Middle-earth, he acknowledged that this might have been an editorial mistake. In the early drafts, Turgon sent 3 guards to escort Aredhel, Glorfindel, Ecthelion, and Eaglemoth. However, in the Silmarillion, the names of the guards are not mentioned. This change was based on one of Tolkien's notes, in which he discussed the motivations of Celegorm and Curufin for not delivering information about Aredhel to Gondolin. He ultimately decided not to portray the guards as such outstanding and courageous characters, as they might have sought her east of Nan Dungertheb. Argon was the 4th child of Fingolfin and Aner, with Fingolfin and Turgon as his older brothers and Aredhel as his sister. Argon is a relatively minor character in J.R.R. Tolkien's The Silmarillion. His existence and deeds are not detailed in the main text of The Silmarillion, but are mentioned in other unpublished manuscripts by Tolkien, making his role less well known. However, he still holds some significance in the broader history of the Noldor. Like the other children of Fingolfin, Argon participated in the Noldor's Great Exodus, following their father during the Noldor's exile from Valinor to Middle-earth. After Fëanor swore an oath to reclaim the Silmarils, Fingolfin led part of the Noldor in following him, but they were betrayed by Fëanor along the way, forcing them to endure the harsh journey across the icy wastes of Helcarax to reach Middle-earth. Once Argon and the Noldor arrived in Middle-earth, they began to establish their kingdoms and realms. However, shortly after their arrival, they were immediately drawn into the conflict against Morgoth. Argon is most known for his heroic death in the Battle of Lambeth. This battle occurred shortly after Fëanor's forces had fought against Morgoth's armies, and Fëanor was slain by a Balrog while in pursuit of the enemy. Fingolfin's forces arrived soon after and joined the battle to fight Morgoth's troops. Argon fought valiantly, leading the charge as the vanguard, but he was tragically killed. Argon's death is not described in detail in the main text, and his sacrifice is mostly mentioned in Tolkien's drafts. Argon's courageous death symbolizes the suffering and sacrifices endured by Fingolfin's family in their long war against Morgoth. While Argon does not play as significant a role as his brothers, Fingolfin and Turgon, in the story of the Silmarillion, his presence adds depth to the royal family of the Noldor. Through Argon's story, we gain a better understanding of the Noldor's early struggles after arriving in Middle-earth, particularly their tremendous sacrifices in the war against Morgoth. Though Argon's role is relatively minor, he remains an important member of Fingolfin's family, and his early death symbolizes the heroism and tragedy of the Noldor, as well as the complex fates of the elven families in the Silmarillion.